remember that time when you're just chilling, you're just like relaxing, enjoying yourself, and then you have a conversation with somebody about anime and you're excited, you're happy to finally be able to say something about something that you keep hidden at most times of the day, and they start to make it into a little bit of a dick measuring context, and you're just like, why are we now trying to analyze the director's thought process behind making some random scene of someone eating ice cream? Like, it doesn't matter. Well, that's why I'm here. I'm here to make you sound smarter when talking about anime. Specifically, I'm talking about a concept in psychology, namely narrative immersion. So in this video, I'm going to talk about what narrative immersion is, or what it is defined as in psychology, what makes a story narrative immersive, and how consumers and creators can use this knowledge. So first things first, what is narrative immersion? Well, narrative immersion is a measure of our engagement with fictional media. So that means that it is a way to assess how we are engaging in something that we're watching, something we're reading. You may be wondering, why am I the one to be talking about this? Like, what do I know about narrative immersion and psychology? I mean, you don't know me. Well, I did psychology and my dissertation was actually about narrative immersion. Specifically, it was about visual abstraction. So that's the process of turning something into something more abstract, which is just a fancy way of saying you drawing them in an anime manga style. Then there was comic exposure, which is self-explanatory. It's just when you're exposed to comics, how long are you exposed to comics? How many comics do you know about? Stuff like that. And it measured emotional engagement, which was largely then measured by narrative immersion. And if we're going even deeper down into the rabbit hole, narrative immersion, the questionnaire was split up into 7 parts. So these parts were as follows: attention, agency, transportation, mental imagery, emotional engagement with characters, and identification. You expect, or at least psychology students, I guess, expect that it would be measuring multiple different things within the subtitles. So for example, if you are measuring personality, so we have this massive common way of measuring personality, and that's using the big 5. We have the OCEAN acronym. So that's openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and
neuroticism.
I'm not sure. I keep thinking it's nepotism, and people have just gotten so confused when I said nepotism, and they were just like, wait, what? That's one of the big 5 personalities traits.
But since my study only found transportation and identification as its most significant subsections according to my factor analysis, I kind of decided that I would only use these 2 things to define narrative immersion in this context.
So what exactly makes a story narrative immersive? Well, it's pretty easy. I mean, we just said it: transportation and identification. What specifically does that mean? Well, I'm going to use some examples so that you understand, because we need no concerns when we're talking to those crazy egotistical anime fans who will not let you go for making a single mistake when talking about a character. Oh my god. Can you tell I'm traumatized? In terms of transportation, we're talking about being fully transported into a world. So that's talking about attention, your idea of the events, how you're processing them, the realism, world building, the skills, the magic, the fantasy. If it's a business or a mystery or a doctor's anime, we're talking about what can make the character important, to understand that there's actually some intelligence, there's something behind these actions and these characters and these motives that actually makes sense. A great example of transportation, or high levels of transportation in a show,
Apart from like Attack on Titan and Spirited Away,
is number 6. I mean, number 6 really is something that I would say is highlighted by its transportation. It's not the perfect anime by any means, but what it does do is it puts you into a world that you cannot escape. From the fact that there is a dichotomy of class, from the sci-fi elements, from the fact that you go from the childhood to adulthood, you see education, you see workplace, you see elderly homes, you see a lot of world building and a lot of attention grabbing information that makes makes you no longer feel like you're sitting in a room watching a show. It makes you feel like you are inside of that show, you're inside that world, you've always been in that world. That's what really makes me love number 6.
And in terms of identification, a story narrative needs to have good MC, good side characters, villains / conflicts, good motifs and themes, and it needs to be emotionally engaging. And a good example of this is Suradere Children. I think that's how you pronounce it. There's a variation of characters and situations that happen in this anime, but despite not being every single one of them, you can always relate to something in their romance. And that is what really makes you identify with something. So transportation is where you feel like you were put into a fictional media, and identification is where you feel like you're actually participating, or you have kind of participated in this fictional media.
So how can you use this knowledge directly? So what's really important is the takeaway.
And the main takeaway is this: narrative immersion can be put into a scale, and we're going to be doing that. Disclaimer, this is a makeshift scale based off of psychological evidence. It has not been tested, of course, so if any psychology students or professors come, this is my disclaimer breaking that down. Transportation is half of the points, and identification is half of the points. Transportation includes 1 point for a good inside world, 1 point for a good outside world, 1 point for abilities or skills of any kind, another point is for interesting events occurring, and a last point is for attention grabbing, you know, that kind of thing. So if every single one of those points are hit, then that gets 5 points out of 5 points for the transportation half of the narrative immersion scale. And then in terms of identification, we're talking MC, we're talking side characters, conflicts, villains, motifs, themes, emotionally engaging. That's another 5 points out of 5.
That's 10 out of 10. No show is going to get 10 out of 10, but you can use this as a scale.
One last note.
I do want to say this. Narrative immersion is really, really important in a way of measuring how you're experiencing fictional media. But it is not to say that a story is good or bad quality. Writing or visual wise, you cannot say that something is good just from the fact that it is narratively immersive. It can still be inaccurate, inconsistent, and confusing while being narratively immersive. Let me give you some examples of this though. So Akatsuki no Yona of the Dawn, I think it's called in English. Yeah, it is a really captivating anime. You are transported into the world through imagery, through setting, through voice, through characters, through dilemmas, through magic and dragons and all these things that are in this anime. But Yona's inconsistent. I mean, come on, if anyone has seen it, you'll know. I think truly that while she thinks that she wants to get stronger, if we're going to be a bit vague so we don't spoil anything, she doesn't really take the steps when there are the opportunities to do that. So despite her talking, she's inconsistent. It is not a character flaw at that point, it is just inconsistency. There's also confusing parts of it, different characters doing things that don't make sense, the world building slightly flawed, why could they not be captured earlier, things like that. It makes it less, you know, good, as I would say. I don't really love the anime, but I will not say that it is not interesting or attention grabbing to watch. And another example is Harry Potter. I mean, everybody knows what Harry Potter is in essence. I'm sure at least you understand it's a magic academy, but with Harry Potter it's a similar thing. Very immersive, very immersive show. There's so much world building, there's so many characters, there's so much interesting things going on there. However, there is a ton of videos I'm sure that you've seen online just talking about how inconsistent the magic system is, how confusing the world is. It doesn't make sense. How powerful is Harry? We don't know. How will we know, you know? I don't know the most about Harry Potter, but I do know that it is a bit flawed, and that is why I say, yeah, narrative immersion is a wonderful tool that you could kind of fuck up and make it, you know, it's narratively immersive actually. Yeah, if you look at the transportation and the identification, you can sound like that guy. You can be more informed when talking about shows or fiction or webtoons and stuff like that, but it's just a factor that implies and suggests that it is actually good quality over. There might be other flaws that exist, and so I can't really help you with that. Sorry, love. Sorry, babe. I can't really do much about that. And that's how you sound smarter when talking about anime. Obviously, it's gonna take a while for you to get used to that, but that is the way that I do it, and that is the way that I will be doing it in my other videos, my follow-up videos about different shows, different anime, different comics, different manhwas, webtoons, K-dramas, I don't know, TV dramas. You guys are gonna have to let me know what you actually want, because I don't have an audience. I don't know what my audience is. I ain't got a clue. Just let me know down below what kind of stuff you want me to review and give a score for, because then you don't have to think about it. Because if you think about it, then I do the work for you, and then you can just present the score and the reasons why. I'll do a summary for you. You know, this, yeah, we get you share. And yeah, then I guess I say a quirky goodbye. じゃあね、また来週。大好き。あんたは素敵。完璧。人。実は、死にたい。